As you know, parathyroid hormone has a very important function of maintaining serum calcium levels by promoting resorption of calcium from bones or by promoting reabsorption of calcium from distal convoluted tubules, as you're all aware of. In fact, we discussed the same at length in our E classes. And also it enhances production of calcitriol, active form of vitamin D from kidneys, which in turn enhances intestinal absorption of calcium. Hi, hope you guys are all doing good. So welcome to our second part of paper discussion video series of NEET MDS 2021. So I hope you guys are all ready. And before we proceed, as I mentioned in the previous video, you have any further queries or you need any further clarification, including references related to topics which we are discussing, just drop a comment and we'll make sure that we're updating relevant information and description part of the video in 24 to 48 hours. So please allow us at least 24 to 48 hours to do so, and I really appreciate your understanding. Right? I hope you guys are all ready. So let's jump into our discussion. Mononeuritis multiplex, there seems to be keywords related to the same. So mononeuritis multiplex refers to involvement of several or many peripheral nerves at same or different points in time by a disease process, usually asymmetric, particularly in early stages, and has been reported to occur in certain conditions including leprosy, diabetes mellitus, and periarthritis nodosa. And also in one of the articles that clearly mentioned that in case of lepromatous leprosy, there is slowly progressive symmetrical sensory polyneuropathy, whereas in case of tuberculoid leprosy, usually there is a sudden severe asymmetric neuritis, which is called as mononeuritis multiplex, right? So this is some relevant information regarding the same. Let me know if you need any further clarification. Now let's move on to the next topic. Modeling, there seems to be a question on the same. So Albert Bandura, way back in 1963, has given this social learning theory. So we have various behavioral learning theories. So social learning theory is one such. So what is this modeling all about? So you observe a model and try to learn through observation. Isn't that modeling? Okay, so let's review some information. So people learn through observing others' behavior, attitudes, and outcomes of those behaviors. And one forms an idea of how new behaviors are performed. And on later occasions, this coded information serves as a guide for further action. Social learning theory explains human behavior in terms of continuous reciprocal interaction between cognitive, behavioral, and environmental influences. And learning by observation is also called as modeling, as you can see in this particular illustration. The person observed who provides information about the behavior by performing the behavior for the observer is called model, and the individual learns by observing and thinking and is facilitated by a reinforcement. Learning is done by observing someone else, hence it is called as social learning. So social learning theory given by Albert Bandura way back in 1963. So this is one of the behavior learning theories which you are quite familiar with. Okay, I hope this information is helpful. Now let's move on to the next topic, coloboma. So in fact, if you remember, we discussed about coloboma in one of the quick revision classes. So what is this coloboma? As you can see in this particular illustration, so bilateral eyelid coloboma. So coloboma in Greek means curtailed. So coloboma describes conditions where normal tissue in or around the eye is missing at birth, and coloboma comes from Greek word that means curtailed. Congenital eyelid coloboma is an uncommon unilateral or bilateral partial or full thickness eyelid defect caused by failure of fusion of mesodermal lid folds during embryogenesis. And importantly, the risk of coloboma may also be increased by environmental factors that affect early development, such as exposure to alcohol during pregnancy. Let me know if this information is suffice, or else drop a comment. Okay. Now let's move on to the next topic, biochemical test for hyperparathyroidism. In fact, very recently, my mother was diagnosed with the same. So the nephrologist suggested a PTH and also serum calcium levels. So you can see PTH test used for diagnosing hyperparathyroidism, and find out whether normal calcium levels are being caused by problem with parathyroid glands or any other, monitoring kidney disease, etc. As you know, parathyroid hormone has a very important function of maintaining serum calcium levels by promoting resorption of calcium from bones or by promoting reabsorption of calcium from distal convoluted tubules, as you're all aware of. In fact, we discussed the same at length in our E-classes. And also it enhances production of calcitriol, active form of vitamin D from kidneys, which in turn enhances intestinal absorption of calcium. So parathyroid hormone maintains calcium levels by these important functions. So whenever blood calcium levels drop, so more of parathyroid hormone is released, and this can be detected by PTH test, isn't it? So as you can see, a PTH test diagnoses hyperparathyroidism as well as hypoparathyroidism. And some additional information along with this test, we can also go with serum calcium level. In specific, ionized calcium, which is even more accurate. I'll review some information. The determination of ionized serum calcium, which is elevated to 6 to 9 milligrams per deciliter, is more useful for diagnosis of hyperparathyroidism. It has been observed that some patients may have normal levels of calcium in serum but differ with regard to ionized calcium. So when you're evaluating calcium levels, ionized calcium gives even a more accurate picture, because in these patients, hyperparathyroidism, ionized calcium is elevated comparatively, even though if calcium levels are appearing to be normal. And as I mentioned about the value, ionized serum calcium is elevated to around 6 to 9 milligrams per deciliter. I'm talking about ionized calcium. Normal ionized calcium levels are in the range of 4.4 to 5.2 milligrams per deciliter. Normal calcium levels are in the range of 9 to 11 milligrams per deciliter, right? I hope there is no confusion, and let me know if you need any further clarification. Now, let's move on to the next topic, maxillofacial prosthetic materials. So we discussed the same in one of the study club discussions as well, if you remember. So various materials like latexes, vinyl plastizoles, silicone rubbers, polyurethane polymers, chlorinated polyethylenes, etc. are used for various maxillofacial prosthetics. Right? Let me know if you need any further information. Now, moving on, furcation classification. Let's review some information from Karan's. As you can see, left and right, skeletal and corresponding radiograph. You can see angular bone defects and furcation involvement in case of first and second molars, isn't it? So furcation involvements have been classified as grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 according to the amount of tissue destruction. Grade 1 is incipient bone loss. Grade 2 is partial bone loss, cul-de-sac. Grade 3 is total bone loss with through and through opening of furcation. And grade 4 is similar to grade 3 but gingival recession exposing the furcation clinically or to view. Okay, and in these illustrations, left side is photograph, right side is radiograph of different degrees of bone loss in skull. Furcation involvement evident in first and second molar, and also you can see in relation to a first molar, distal angular bone loss, and also there are interdental craters in relation to second molar between second and third molars, which are quite evident, right? So almost always there seems to be a question on furcation classification, furcation defects, or probes which are exclusively used for, exploring these furcations. So consider this topic very, very important. Now let's move on to the next topic or next question, drug of choice in Crohn's disease. So this is one of the keywords which I received. So you can see comparative analysis of ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Both of them are inflammatory bowel diseases. And you can see the management part in the last section. So for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, see if this information is useful. If not, let me know. I'll try to provide you more details. So ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease are chronic inflammatory bowel diseases that relapse and remit over years. The diseases have many similarities and it is sometimes impossible to distinguish them. However, ulcerative colitis only involves the colon, whereas Crohn's disease can involve any part of GI tract. Okay, these are some of the main differences and also various aspects related to ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, including the management part. Now, let's move on to the next topic. Pulp therapy in leukemia, obviously it is contraindicated because of more chances of bleeding, more chances of infection. So let's review some information related to the same. So there are basically two types of leukemia, as you all know, lymphoblastic and myeloid, and these can be again acute and chronic, and we discussed immunity classes as well. Most common in children, all ALL, all children have, let's assume that way. So all stands for acute lymphocytic or lymphoblastic leukemia, isn't it? Now, clinical features of leukemia are attributed because of anemia, granulocytopenia, thrombocytopenia, because of replacement of normal bone marrow by undifferentiated blast cells. And dental management in specific, they have mentioned in literature that all elective dental treatment to be deferred in children whose first remission is not obtained, and pulp therapy in deciduous teeth is contraindicated even in remission stage and even in permanent teeth according to some articles. So it's not indicated because any procedure that involves giving L-ing or injections, any procedure that involves bleeding, it's a significant risk, right? So pulp therapy is contraindicated in case of leukemia in children. I think those are the keywords which I received. Let me know if you need any additional information. Now let's move on to the next topic, speech therapy assessment in cleft lip and palate at what age? So those are the keywords which I received. So children with clefts will have a care plan tailored to meet their individual needs. So we have a timetable. So birth to 6 weeks, feeding assistant, support for parents, hearing tests, and pediatric assessment. 3 to 6 months surgery to repair cleft lip. 6 to 12 months surgery to repair cleft palate. 18 months speech assessment. 3 years speech assessment, 5 years speech assessment, 8 to 12 years bone graft to repair a cleft in the gingival or gum area, 12 to 15 years orthodontic treatment and monitoring jaw growth. Okay, and also you can find the relevant information in the slide as well. So speech assessment at around 18 to 24 months, and also another one at 3 years and another one at 5 years. Okay, I hope this information is helpful. Now let's move on to the next topic. Which of the following drugs is not indicated in acute asthma? I think those are the keywords which I received. So this information is for your benefit. So you can see various drugs and the protocol for status asthmaticus, acute asthma exacerbation. And I got a keyword that is IV theophylline. So use of intravenous aminophylline, that is theophylline ethylene diamine, water soluble, double salt, in case of status asthmaticus is outdated or outmoded. Right, so this is information which is available in Tripartite. So IV theophylline is no longer used. I hope this information is helpful. Right, so these are some of the topics which I wanted to highlight in this specific video. So if you have more keywords with you or more topics related to these questions, drop a comment or get back through mail at proudtobedentist@gmail.com. And as I said, if you need any further clarification, just drop a comment and give us 24 to 48 hours. We'll update relevant information in the description part of this video. Right? So wish you all the best. Love you all.